Good morning. So thank you for the introduction and thank you for inviting me down to speak today. I'll just start with a little background. So I qualified as a nurse in 1993, which means I've been qualified for 26 years, which is very scary. And never on the day that I qualified did I think I would have a career that had been involved in research for the last 12 years. Research was a swear word to me. It was something that I was never going to do and never thought for 1 minute it would be something that I felt so passionate about. So I was encouraged to apply for a research nurse post in 2004. I was running up and down the stairs of the tower block at the Royal Hallamshire Hospital as an acute pain nurse, and I bumped into a colleague who I'd trained with, and we were having a quick catch-up, and she said, "Oh, I've got a job going as a research nurse working with patients with multiple sclerosis. Why don't you apply?" I was a research nurse, and I'd had kind of the odd little interaction with research, but it was always something that the medics did when I worked in intensive care, and it was always the senior sisters on the unit that helped to support that. It was never for us lowly staff nurses. And I thought, oh, I can't do that. That's far too clever. Can't possibly. And she said, no, come and have a chat. Let's have a look at, come and have a chat with me. So I went and I gave up a day of my time to go and shadow just to see what it was she did. And, well, it was mind-blowing. There was all these patients with this chronic condition that there were no treatments available for. I met some of the patients on that day of shadowing, and they were just so enthusiastic, so grateful that they were being given an option of a potential treatment that might improve their condition and long-term outcomes. And then I kind of started to look at all the data side. Now, I am not a data person. I am very kind of let's get things going and move on. But the data thing, I don't know, it just clicked. I don't know if it was the fact that I'd come from an intensive care background. I'm not sure what it was. But the management of this data and making sure all this data was absolutely pristine and fantastic, then it was going to go on and inform the outcomes of these clinical trials and have an input into these new treatments that were hopefully going to get marketing authorisations. I don't know, just really kind of floated my boat. So I applied and I got the job. And I worked there for 2 years, and I worked with a fantastic team, a humongously prolific investigator within multiple sclerosis, who really kind of supported and encouraged me to think about a long-term career in research. Now, this is all pre-NIHR. So then NIHR became into being in 2006, and I, at the same time, moved roles into the newly established clinical research facility in Sheffield Teaching Hospitals, and at that time it didn't have NIHR funding. It was supported by the Trust and the university. And this was a whole different way of working. We were what were termed, and Susan Hamer won't be happy with me, generic research nurses. We were research specialists who would go out and support any investigators, any clinicians, any academics who needed to deliver their research programmes. And I worked in all sorts of areas. And what I really loved was the fact that I could go into clinical areas and start to sell the word of research and kind of get other staff involved in delivering research and make people think that it wasn't this special thing. And actually it was part and parcel of what we all should be doing as NHS clinicians, supporting patients to ensure that we're looking at improvements for patients' treatments and outcomes. So that was another 2 years of my life, and then I joined the Clinical Research Network, which was just the most amazing opportunity, having grown up in an acute teaching hospital, in mainly acute care settings, to be almost let loose across South Yorkshire as we were then, working with district general hospitals who were completely research naive, with community practices, GP surgeries to enable research to start to happen. It was just amazing. I absolutely loved it and saw such an immense impact within probably 12 months of my role, where we'd got nursing staff who were appointed through Sheffield Teaching Hospitals, were supported, had skills and development and training to go out and start to spread the word across our kind of local region. And that team's continued now through the transition. Initially, we started with a team of 4 whole-time equivalents. We've now got 23.4, I think it is, whole-time equivalents who are delivering research across a care pathway, from acute care right through into community settings, into care homes, the whole patient pathway, which is just fantastic. In 2012, I moved back into the clinical research facility, into my current role. And my current role's got 3 strands, which again is just kind of, I guess, a bit of a dream job almost, in that I get to do some of the more complex clinical trials because we're in receipt of NIHR experimental medicine funding in the clinical research facility. And as the ITU nurse, it's where the techie bit comes in, so I really quite like that element of my job. I still work with the Clinical Research Network to look at how we can improve workforce development and that kind of agile workforce to ensure we are continuing to support research across that patient's care pathway. And then I have professional responsibility for all research nurses within the organisation, but I do kind of exploit that bit slightly in that wherever I can, I will make sure that I'm spreading the research word and enthuse staff to become involved. And that's probably the best bit for me, is the fact that I now have an excuse to go and speak to student nurses. I regularly go and present to the student nurses that are training at our local universities, so that research to them isn't a swear word, and it's absolutely accepted that we should all be supporting this. And from that work, we have inquiries, at least 2 a month, I would suggest, of fairly junior staff nurses who are saying to me, right, how can I get a career in research? What do I have to do to be able to come and work in your department? And for me, this is just fundamental for all of us as healthcare professionals to be making research accessible to everybody, to make them comfortable and confident that then they can go off and start to think about their own research questions. I'm not an academic, I am a jobbing research nurse, and I will remain a jobbing research nurse for as long as I possibly can. But just hoping that I can plant that seed, make people feel that research is for them, and not just for the very, very clever academics that sit in universities, then I feel like I've done a significant bit for the NHS, but most importantly, for the patients that we work with, because I'm a nurse, so therefore they sit in my heart. So, thank you.